A scandal is pulling back the curtain on one of South Korea's largest exports, K-pop. Two of the industry's biggest stars are under investigation for allegedly violating the country's prostitution laws. They're also charged with several drug-related offenses. Police say two of these members of K-pop groups were part of an online chat group that illegally shared sexually explicit videos of women. Those videos were taken on spy cams without the women's knowledge or consent. There were more than 6,000 cases of secret videotaping reported in South Korea in 2017. And last year, thousands of Korean women took to the streets to condemn the issue with the rallying cry, "My life is not your porn." Professor of Critical Studies at UCLA, Suk-Young Kim has been following this story. She's also a director at UCLA Center for Performance Studies, and she joins us now from Los Angeles. Professor, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Explain these two K-pop stars' involvement in this scandal and explain why it's become nationally known across South Korea.
Sure. These two K-pop stars were very popular public figures and commanded sizable international fandom, but it was discovered that the nightclub that one of these K-pop stars were running was mired in massive charges that involves illegal drug trade and use of those psychoactive drugs, money laundering, prostitution, rape, and potentially tax evasion cases. So also their online chat room activities indicates that they have been violating this law in South Korea that prohibits from, taking illegal footage of sexually explicit videos and circulating them. And what really kind of upset South Korean public and K-pop fandom at large is that K-pop stars have been seen as icons of success, and their image has been really deeply associated with the image of South Korea. So this is really turning into a massive scandal that really rocks the K-pop industry at large.
Yeah, and your point about how massive and popular K-pop is. I mean, I know all across the world, it's not just in South Korea. In Japan, K-pop stars are popular. When they appeared at the Grammy Awards, you had BTS at the Grammy Awards here in the United States. There was a huge, loud cheer as they appeared on stage. So it's kind of a worldwide phenomena. So now that we've established how big K-pop is, explain to us what the word molka means.
It is, K-pop, as you say, is a global phenomenon. And I want to say clearly that most K-pop stars are hardworking, professional young people who are really admired by their generation. But I think, because it's so globally visible, many fans tend to draw a line between the scandalous stars that they see as minority and still very much a protective and loving stance towards the group or idols that they support. However, in my view, this is going to have some impact on how women are treated in the industry and how minors are treated in the industry, because many of these stars start their career at a really young age. And, sometimes they are so mired in professional training that they don't necessarily get a holistic education to become a human, to develop into a full-fledged human being. So I'm very much hoping that this will be an opportunity to change some of the practices that are done to minors and women.
So let's talk about, now that we've established how big of a phenomena this is and how big of a deal this is that these individual members have been wrapped up in this scandal. This is also shining a spotlight on the illicit sex videos that are filmed or distributed without consent, and they're widely distributed on a thriving black market in South Korea and around the world. And this is a problem that is widespread, and it has been for quite some time, even though, as we pointed out earlier, distribution and production of pornographic material is against the law. So I think that's what's interesting, I think, for a lot of people, is all of a sudden this whole corrupt world that most people didn't know existed is now being exposed.
Actually, there has been quite vibrant women's protest against spy cams and use and circulation of illegal footages. Last year, there was some a record number of protest participants who burst out onto streets openly voicing their concern and disagreement against this type of violence done to women. What we didn't know quite explicitly until this scandal erupted was how pervasive it could be in the K-pop world concerning stars that many people looked up to as public icons and model to emulate. So I think this scandal really brokered a kind of view into that kind of really protected world, because K-pop is a world that kind of thrives on fantasy and positive image that is broadly manufactured by the management companies.
Yeah. Well, so according to the Los Angeles Times, Lee Hyo-rin, he is with the Korea Cyber Sexual Violence Response Center, said to the Los Angeles Times that this is getting a lot of attention, as you point out, Professor, because these perpetrators are famous. And that's why I was asking you about that word mocha, which according to the Los Angeles Times is an abbreviation in Korea for hidden camera. And in one case, the Los Angeles found that that an individual had installed spy cams in dozens of hotels and streamed private moments of at least 1,600 guests on a website that charged $45 a month for subscription. And many of these videos were shared on the black market, as we point out. So it's difficult to gauge the magnitude of this problem in South Korea, but clearly it is one. And because of the notoriety and the fame of these individuals that have been wrapped up in this scandal, it's getting a lot of attention.
Yes. In a way, this is some kind of interesting kind of meeting between how fans have always wanted to know more intimately about their star's life, because, I mean, they are very tightly managed for the most part. And some fans have been known to install Molka, the secret cameras, to really follow the star's life. But this scandal ironically exposed one of the kind of ugliest moments of these stars' private lives by exposing what kind of illicit activities that they've been engaged in their private chat rooms. And it is really a wake-up call for how the on-stage performance as well as off-stage performance of these stars can be closely scrutinized.
Is it your sense that in South Korea, part of the issue that this is bringing to light is the fact that there's a prevalence of misogyny, deep-seated misogyny in South Korea? Is that an issue that is finally being addressed? Because as you know, all around the world, specifically though in the United States, the MeToo movement has addressed issues of misogyny and sexual assault by finally you have women that are coming forth and sharing their truth. Is that happening in South Korea as well?
It is happening. It hasn't fully caught fire, in my view. South Korea's Me Too movement erupted in early 2018 when some powerful, lawmakers kind of shed light on the prosecutor figure came forth, and that caught attention of the public because usually when people from entertainment industry come forth with sexual charges, the notion is
I think we've lost the signal. Oh, there she is. She's back. Sorry, Professor. Continue.
Oh, sorry. So South Korea's Me Too movement started in 2018 when prosecutor came forth with the allegations of sexual misconduct by her male colleague, and this caught a lot of attention in South Korea because South Korean public has this notion that when entertainers come forth with these charges, entertainers are often equated with more sexually available figures, and that's a deep-seated notion of misogyny in the industry. And I was not surprised that K-pop world was not being really participating in Me Too movement, but hopefully with these two K-pop stars being prosecuted and investigated, that will change in the future.
Yeah, it's good to know that time's up in South Korea as well. Finally, let me ask you this, Professor. The outcry over this latest scandal has prompted South Korean President Moon Jae-in to also reopen a 10-year-old suicide case by a Korean actress, Jang Jong-yeon. Explain why he is doing that.
President Moon clearly stated that there is a similarity and parallel between Seungri and Jung Jun-young's K-pop scandal case and actress Jang Ja-yeon's suicide case, because as many South Koreans see it, this is about collusion between police and socially powerful, whether that be celebrity or top business owners. In both cases, there seems to be a very clear lack of full-fledged police investigation into the corruption and violations done by, top 1-5% of South Korean society. And there is the parallel. And President Moon is pointing to how this is really about fairness that should be really protected by the police force. And he's therefore ordering the case to be reopened.
Professor of Critical Studies at UCLA, Suk-Young Kim. Thank you so much, Professor. This is a really interesting and important subject, and I'm glad we're covering it. I'm glad you're sharing your thoughts on it with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.